Are you listening?
What's up, healthy people? Welcome to episode 5 of Healthy Masculinity. Just want to make sure you guys are going to stay tuned because this is another just shoot between Dave and I, but we have a pretty good interview coming up next week. Sorry we didn't get an episode last week, but
I'd cellulitis on my ass.
yeah, there was a lot of things going on. Business and health didn't permit. So, in light of current events, we're just going to actually discuss current events, and this is something that's kind of difficult for both of us. I'm half Mexican, I'm half white, and I grew up around nothing but black people. Like I've only been in like a more urban setting my whole life. Discrimination, racism, just the prejudices and ignorance that everybody's so sick and tired of, always been a part of my life. And so I'm gonna be honest, my view may be a little bit upsetting to some. I'm pretty sure yours isn't as much actually, but I read. For instance, I read something earlier today on Facebook, and it says, you see how fed up you are after a week of racism? Imagine having to live with it. Okay, now imagine having to live with it and then having it amplified over the last week. And being somebody who has been attacked, standing on the same side as someone else simply because there is a lot of ignorance and prejudice on both sides. I've actually had a lot of people tell me things, and then they actually talk to me and they figure out my stance and they'll apologize and back out. Like, oh, well, I didn't understand that you had experienced things like this, or that I honestly assumed you were like Italian or white. And I'm like, no, and it's just been something for me. But I know you've been real strong in this. Like, you've been standing and going to protests regularly and doing a lot, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, a lot of people know. Anybody that knows me on social media knows my where I stand politically. Or they think they know. I would say they think they know. But anybody that truly knows me and sit down and have a conversation with me knows that I'm not a fucking right winger. Excuse my language. I'm not a right winger. I'm not a Republican. I'm really far from being a Democrat, even though I have a really progressive ideology. Like I'm pro-gay, pro-trans, and all this stuff. But and I am. I'll be honest. Most people know this. I have been anti-Black Lives Matter movement up until this George Floyd of death and this tragedy. But for me, what came to me was what this like come to Jesus thing was that somebody said to me, and it really resonated. Is that in the Black Lives Matter movement, it's really important to realize that there are extremists that attach themselves to every movement, right? There's extremists that are Christian. They have extreme Christians. They have extreme Muslims. They have extreme everything, right? Mm-hmm. And there are extremists in the Black Lives Matter movement. There are extremists in the anti-fashion movement. I'm not going to say all anti-fascists are 100% are. I say the word for me?
Oh, anarchists.
Anarchists, there you go. Are 100% anarchists. Some of them just are really fighting against, but there are a large part of them that actually are. So what came to me was that, especially in the Black Lives Matter movement right now, we need to focus on making sure that the Black lives have the same voice in the justice system. I'm not going any further with it than the Black Lives Matter with this situation. In the justice system, we need to make sure that the Black lives matter, that they have the same voice as a white person that stands in front of the judge, or that treat the same person as a white person that's getting confronted by a cop. And once we are able to lift Black Lives Matter up to the point that all lives do matter, then all lives will truly matter. Because if you take the lowest common denominator and you raise it as equal as the highest number, now everything is equal. You know what I mean?
And that's one thing, I get that view actually. If it is black people standing up, if a lot of people are turning it into black and white, black versus white, which upset me at first because, like I've explained before on social media, man, I got labeled Mexican, slammed on the ground, had my face dug in the concrete, and I've had a knee on my neck in that same position. The guy kneeled on me to put cuffs on me. And then his knee went down to my neck, and he kind of like pushed on my head and told me to shut up. I was young, I was healthy, I was fine. I kept tension on my neck, but I was afraid. And I grew a serious a lack of trust. Get down, dude. But I grew a serious lack of trust, and for police and just authority in general. And I feel like that really, at that time in my life, I really don't see that I was involved in too much. I wasn't really a problem starter. I was kind of just figuring things out, and that really pushed me in a direction. It gave me the issue with authority that led to, I feel a bit of, I'm not blaming the police for this. I was a screw up kid. I did make a lot of mistakes, but I've never, because of the color of my skin, I've never been given that chance. I sat there and watched it. You know, I'll be honest with you. When I went into court, there were black dudes that had done worse than me, but they were from different areas, and they got lighter sentences for worse things or the same things than I did. You know, I was trying, they tried to rail me like 35 years for something that I just got 10 for. You know? And it took me playing the system the same way that everybody I grew up with, man. Like all people of color and all people who just are seen as voiceless, man. Poor people. I feel like that's the real enemy only cares about.
And I think overall.
But hear me out here, because I just went off on a tangent. So my point being, I experienced a lot of fear and a lot of emotional issues, and I wanted to stand up and say, yeah, this is wrong. Police brutality. People have a voice, and people have been seen as voiceless, and we need to cancel that out and make sure that everybody is heard. That was my feeling, and then immediately it became black versus white, and I'm like, hold on, and this is how I've always felt. Like, I'm not against the Black Lives Matter movement, and for the same, what you just said, very similar reasons. But I was just like, hold on, man. Like, so white people got privilege, and black people's lives matter right now. What about brown people? Like, and then I realized, though, man, it's shut up, stop thinking about yourself, and look at the benefit. And like you said, what Black Lives Matter is standing up for today is want to help the brown people. It's going to help the yellow.
It's
people.
gonna
help the white people.
It's gonna help everybody if
Exactly.
you really want to be honest about it. Because what we absolutely have in this country, is a. We're gonna be real, so there's gonna be some cussing on this podcast. Is a fucked up fucking justice system that absolutely favors people that have money. Okay,
Yeah.
and because and we'll be honest about it. The people, percentage-wise, there's more white people, so more white people have money than more black people.
Yeah, exactly.
That goes on. We can go many different deeper ways with that, but let's just stick with it on the surface.
They just assume you were ghetto and voiceless when they see you judging by the color of your skin. And see, that's the real enemy, and that's what I've been wanting to say. So many people today are just like, racism, racism, and it's like, no. Actually, a lot of these people are just complacent, prejudiced, and ignorant to the reality of the situation from the other side because they haven't lived it. So what happens is you attack a lot of people and they become defenseless, and all of a sudden there's this division that is coming from both sides.
Right, but there is. I mean, we can't say that cops aren't racist, right? We can't say there's not racist cops. There are racist cops, and we can even and you can even say that there's even, you know, cops that are the same skin color and that have feel some type of way towards a black person that doesn't live the same type of lifestyle they do. You know what I'm saying? So they're going to treat them a different way, or they're not. You know what I'm saying? Because I know this, that I've grown up, and you know what I'm saying, I didn't grow up in the projects. But I didn't grow up, you know, I grew up.
You don't get tattoos like this if you've been good your entire life.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I grew up, I can be honest, like, my family's a pretty good family on my mom's side. Like, they're white, German, French, whatever family. You know what I'm saying? My dad's side is Hispanic and has Hispanic and German, but, you know.
Even that's a term that now has, you know, really been pushed out there. Hispanic, you know, is just like that's a label for people. Some people could say, like, from Hispania, and they just kind of jumbled a bunch of people together. Some people would say it's those who speak Spanish, but it was a label actually given to Latin Americans or Spanish people and jumbling them together by white people who didn't know what to mark them off as on paperwork, you know. So
I mean, I can believe that.
So,
but going back to the cop thing and stuff, is like, so there are absolutely cops that are absolutely racist, and especially you can and especially this is probably more so the situation in general. You have asshole cops, white, black, Mexican, Chinese, whatever, and then you have you know, saying guys that probably are making more money than them doing illegal shit, right? And these cops ain't on the up and up most of the time, anyways, right? So you see them jealous of the fact that they see somebody else doing better than them, right? And then they despise them for how they're making their money, right? Even if it is in the sense, almost a harmless crime, you know what I'm saying? Because to each his own, you know what I'm saying? Like, drinking is no different than smoking pot or, whatever. So you have cops that are absolutely targeting people. And they absolutely target people, and they target more so people of color than they target white people in these hood communities. I know this because I look white and skin color. My name on paper, I'm Hispanic. I have a full Hispanic name.
Yeah, I'm the opposite.
You can't fucking I
have a white name and I get pretty dark. And
so at first glance, now don't get me wrong, if I'm out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning doing something wrong, riding like I used to be, acting a fool, of course I'm going to get lit up and I'm going to get pulled out the car, and I'll probably be treated a little bit different than I would if I was Hispanic or black. We'll be honest with it, and that's where the privilege is actually true. Now, I will honestly say this, that there is definitely more economic privilege, classman type privilege in the world than there is a color privilege, because at some point money, at some point it doesn't matter what color you are when you have money, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what, if you got that money, it doesn't matter. You're going to beat that case. You're going to, whatever it is, you can buy this, you can buy that, you can sue this person, you can open this business, file for bankruptcy, not pay taxes.
And that is the strongest, and that's what I feel is the strongest inequality in our nation, and it's being ignored because people are seeing it on the surface as racism. But racism, the prejudice by the police, assuming that people of color or people who are from different areas don't have much. Because I have a friend, he bought a house in the hood. He doesn't live in the hood. He grew out of it a long time ago, and he just got harassed horribly, like treated like shit while he was there. And the dude is well off, and he did beat the case, and he did kind of have like where he had this pride moment when it came to engaging the officer in the end, and he realized you weren't stopping somebody from the hood, you were stopping a guy who was going to check on a job at a house that he just bought and redid in the ghetto. He's doing well for himself. But I just see it so much here's the thing. A lot of people, like I like to say it myself, I like to say it's a lot of prejudice and ignorance. It's a lot of ignorance, but there's some hateful motherfuckers out there. Because on multiple occasions, actually my entire life, but on multiple occasions with police officers, where I was in the wrong sometimes, and the one time where I wasn't, or where I actually got pretty poorly mistreated, I've always been questioned. What are you, white or Mexican? Because your name. Why does it matter? What does my treatment hinder? Is there some quota to be met based on the color of my skin or my ethnicity? What the hell does that have to do with anything? And that, in my opinion, is a sign of, and what I perceived it to be was a sign of racism. As, okay, so it matters to you. That's why you want to know now. And the fact that it matters to you tells me that depending on which race I am is going to be how you're going to. We're going to house you here if you're. No, you're not, because I've been in jail. You're going to mix everybody up. You don't care. You want to know what I am because you want to know what you want to charge me with. You want to know what you can get away with charging me with.
Exactly. Or even besides that, here I'll even go further deeper with that a little bit, and we'll talk, and we can even go into, because I've been in jail. I'll tell you one of my first jail experience. The first time I ever went to jail, first time I ever got locked up. I do have a past. I do have a past. And the first time I ever went to jail, I went in and same type of situation, getting classified. Mm-hmm. Anybody, any locals, any people from the island, they know what it's like. You go in, you get classified at the old county. This is the old county jail, the old bricks and bars.
Yeah.
So you go and you get classified, where you stay in a classification tank, right? But that's before you get classified, right? So of course, ask me the questions. The cop. The deputy, I remember his name, gave me a hard time. Oh, you think you're black? Oh, you think you're Mexican? Yeah. Well, no, you're a punk ass little white boy. We're gonna teach you. We're gonna teach you you're a white boy today. And they knew the type. They already knew me somewhat. They knew the people I hung around with kind of a little bit. So they thought it was gonna be. And plus, people I got arrested with, right? Already been in trouble. So anyway, so they, they took me to jail, and, he told me, like, You're gonna learn today. So exactly what he did was he threw me after when in fact he classified me. He threw me in an all crip tank.
Oh.
But then telling the people as he threw my ass in there that I'm a little wannabe white boy blood and threw me in there. So needless to say, that jail experience was great, you know.
I like what you're wearing. It kind of suits, huh?
But no affiliation with any gangs. But you know, that was just the thing, though, is that they, you know, assumed that whatever the people I were hanging out with, you know, were whatever, that I was whatever too, and because I look white, now you have a white officer that despises me because I look white, have a Hispanic last name, and I'm growing up poor and I'm running the streets. So now you look down on me, so now you're going to treat me like shit. And that's the same thing as these officers do to black people, to anybody. So that's when I say a lot of times it is racism involved. Absolutely, because people are fucking racist. Human nature is to fucking be tribal. So you automatically want to click with your tribe, right? Yeah, but people like me and you don't have a fucking tribe. Exactly. We're biracial, so I'm never white enough to be white, never Mexican to be a Mexican. So therefore, where the fuck do we sit? Here we do. We sit here, the white people, the white cop. You know what? You're a fucking piece of trip. Now you don't want to be. You're white. You look white, but you got a Mexican last name, and you dress like you're black from the hood. So guess what? I'm gonna throw you in here and teach you a lesson.
And here's the thing, though. You said not white enough to be white, not Mexican enough to be Mexican. And I'm going to just wonder, I'm going to ask you, did you ever notice any race in particular that didn't care about what you were and accepted you?
honestly, more so than anything, as when I was older, Hispanics. Okay. Yes. When I was younger, I got made. It didn't matter. You know, you're a kid, you get made fun of by everybody.
There's always been a dissidence, but black people have never cared about what I was.
And I was going to go there too.
I grew up around nothing but black people. I had a ton of white friends growing up, I'm sure, and a ton of Mexican friends. But all the people, like my babysitters when I was a kid, the guys that I really clicked with on we're actually longtime friends. A majority of them are black or biracial themselves.
Yeah.
And none of them have ever given a shit about what color I was, what my mom was, what my dad was.
Yeah, no, I mean,
being a Mexican, well, who's the white and who's the Mexican out of your mama and daddy? Or a white person tell you the same thing. What do you identify as more? Or in worst case scenario, so who do you ride with? Nobody. And it's been my entire life. When I'm a little white kid running around the Mexican household parties, I'm güero, I'm white boy. I'm being labeled by the color of my skin and my difference by family. And then when I actually, interact, I don't even really know my white family, but with some of my interactions with them, they're like, you're white. My Mexican family's like, you're Mexican. No, I'm mixed. I'm both. You know what I mean? Like, why do I have to pick a fucking race?
That's something that's a conversation that I think a lot of people don't want to talk about, right? Mm-hmm. I think a conversation about somebody that's mixed and how society has treated them and the racism that they face, interracism from their own people, their own
family,
is definitely something that's not talked about, that should be talked about. Absolutely. Because that should affect you, especially when you're little, because you end up with a complex, right? Like,
I'm aware of race. Like, it's something that I see. It's beautiful. You see these kids, and they do come from, and I hate to say it, they do come from like singularly raised homes. And honestly, I'm being honest with you. A lot of my mixed friends, like I hung out with dudes that were black and Mexican, black and white, white and Mexican, all white and black, and I got friends with all of them. And we all. I've had the time, actually, because this has always affected me in my life. I've considered this years ago, and for decades of my entire life, I've always asked my other mixed friends, man, so which side of your family is giving you the most shit? Like, which side's the most racist? Because there always is, and it always varies, and that's the thing. Like, everybody's like, oh, they're both racist, and that's the problem that I've seen, is that it's a prejudice that leads to racism, because we feel like it's uniqueness, man, and I can respect culture, and I really can. I can respect a lot of Black America's choice and recent statements that I've heard about trying to move away from what is white American culture, because they want their own, and they feel like we were brought over here in poor circumstance, like a woman was explaining to me, and then I heard it in a poem that she sent me a link to, how all the black names are really unique because they don't want to use our white names because they were forcefully given to them, which is understood. That's respected.
Yeah.
But
Me and my girlfriend were actually talking about that just the other day.
Why do white people need to use white names? Why should anybody do that? Why can't we just, call them like American? Why can't we grow into one instead of growing further apart? Like everybody always says this statement now, and you know what? I've actually heard somebody recently say that this is a racial trigger. America's a hodgepodge, and if it were, those things mixed together. America is just like the land of everybody, and we're only looking at it as black and white when in reality there's this whole like gray or rainbow area in the middle of it that is like, what the fuck? And that's where it comes, because nobody's right or left, nobody's up or down, everybody's somewhere close to one side or the other, but they all have their uniqueness and they all have their differences. And for us to just be so polar with it, it makes a lot of people feel defensive and lost right now.
And you know what? I know we got to get close to wrapping up this first segment, but